No one told me the man who saved you could also become the man you'll need saving from. That is the nasty thing about love. It never looks dangerous in the beginning. In the beginning, it looks like patience, like protection, like a man remembering your coffee order, defending your name, kissing your forehead, and making you feel like every ugly thing people ever said about you had finally met somebody brave enough to disagree. That was Drakkar. At first, he came into my life looking like shelter from the storm. Didn't hurt that he was fine as hell, too. The kind of fine that makes common sense start negotiating with desire. He looked at me like he saw past the reputation, past the rumors, past the body every man wanted to touch. And for a woman who had been touched more than she had been treasured, that kind of gaze felt like salvation. So I let him in, because his tenderness felt like proof that maybe I had been wrong about love. Maybe love didn't always come with strings. Maybe I could be someone's wife and still belong to myself. But dreams are soft, and men are not always careful with soft things. By the time I realized Drakkar's protection had strings, the strings had already wrapped themselves around my heart. I had already married him, built with him, prayed with him, laid under him, cried beside him, covered him in grace he kept mistaking for permission. And still I stayed. Because leaving a man is easy when you hate him. It is a different kind of hell when you still remember the version of him who made you feel safe. That is the part people do not understand. They see the woman finally screaming and call her crazy. They do not see the years she spent whispering. They see the glass on the floor. They do not see the night she slept next to a man who kept breaking her. They see the rage. They do not see the woman who tried to make mercy out of every red flag until mercy started to look like self-betrayal. So before you judge me for what I did, understand this. I did not wake up one day and become dangerous. I became dangerous slowly, one betrayal at a time. One night of choosing him over myself at a time. And the worst part? By the time Drakkar finally started becoming the man I had begged him to be, I had already become the kind of woman who did not know how to receive him. This is a velvet tale, where love is not innocent, where goodbyes are not always final, and where one woman learns that the love she deserves may not be the man who finally changes, but the version of herself she almost destroyed, waiting for him to. I stared at the picture so long the colors in the room started to blend together, creating a cloud of red that I could not see past. My incredibly handsome husband had made himself a profile on a dating site. He made sure to use a new photo, one of him looking whole, healed, and ready to fuck. His dark skin glistened as he leaned off the side of an expensive ass boat, smiled damn near perfect. The midnight blue Gucci button-up he wore was open just enough to reveal his defined muscles and the ink of the tattoo I had traced on many nights with my ring finger. The waves on his head were crisp and defined, moisturized, leading down to his full salt and pepper beard, the one I loved to tug on as I entered the realm of pleasure while riding him. On those same nights, I traced the tattoo on his chest. He looked happy, healthy, grounded. Like a man who wasn't even capable of shattering a heart the way he had did mine repeatedly. The tears were falling so fast, they collected on my thick upper lip and formed a pool that stopped me from breathing without breathing them in. Who the fuck does he think he is? My friend texted me, one message after the other. That's a new picture, too. I told you, he never loved you. That one stung so bad I hopped into my car, throwing my purse and phone into the driver's seat so fast I'm sure I cracked something. I backed out of my driveway so abruptly and violently I almost hit my neighbor's car. I sped on the freeway, my heart racing as rage pumped through my veins. I was no longer human. Just as I hit the exit, swerving like a mad woman and coming inches away from hitting the side of the four-wheeler beside me, my phone rang. It was my friend, the one who sent me the link to his profile. I hit ignore and kept speeding until I hit the street his building sat on. I did not want him to see me coming. I turned off my lights and crept up the block, slow as hell. His unit was one of the ones facing the street, so I could see everything if he had his blinds open. And it just so happened that day, he did. Kept them wide open. I parked down the street and walked the rest of the way. I stood at the corner of the window so I could get a good view of him without him seeing me. And the anger I felt when I saw that picture didn't even touch the anger I felt in this moment, watching my husband serve some random Hispanic woman a plate of the meal he used to prepare for me. I did try to get a hold of my anger. The rage was getting to a place I knew would be dangerous, damn near murderous. I did my breathing exercises. I stepped back. I even did that whole touch, see, taste thing people do to regulate. But nothing worked. And the moment I saw her grab and hold his hand as she looked into his eyes, I felt something take over me. I reached down and picked up 2 huge, fat boulders and launched them into his large glass window. Pop! Glass was everywhere. The boulder landed right next to the woman. She was on the floor, covering her head, eyes closed, in fear of what would happen next. I threw the other boulder just to break the other side. Then I hopped into the living room through the broken glass and slapped the fuck out of Drakkar right before I pushed him onto the couch and kicked him repeatedly. The woman screamed and tried to grab her jacket and exit, but I was not letting her get away. I stomped my foot onto the burgundy suede jacket that lay on the floor before she could grab it, and looked her in the eyes like my face was going to be the last one she seen before she took her last breath. She was scared as hell, and she had every reason to be. She kept pulling at the jacket and pleading with her eyes for me to let her leave. I started to hear Drakkar moaning from the pain of my violence as he tried to get up. That woke me from my trance, because after all of the faceless woman that got to enjoy my husband's body, she was the one I caught him with. And I had enough rage in me to strangle her with just one of my bare hands. But I felt him grab me from behind as my hand whipped to her neck, and he pulled me onto the couch with him. "I'm sorry," he said, breathing hard into my ear as he held me on his lap, hands crossed over my stomach. "I didn't want this. I swear I didn't want this." He continued pleading, squeezing me as he did. I watched my one chance to collect my dignity run out of the front door. That made me hate him even more. I pushed myself off him, standing as I kicked him again. "You couldn't even wait a month." I said it as my fist went flying, and one punch connected, landed right on his upper lip. It split, and the blood came rushing out of the swollen gash. He rushed to the bathroom to clean himself up, and I was panting out of rage. I picked up a glass lamp and threw it at the wall. Pop! I took the metal bookend and threw it into his glass table. Pop! I took the golden scissors he had on the end table and sliced his expensive mocha velvet sofa until the filling was all over the floor. I smashed all the wine bottles, open and closed, until the carpet was red. I fucked his place up. Every soft thing in that apartment became a target. Every pretty thing, every expensive thing, every piece of peace he thought he was about to enjoy with someone else after leaving me to rot in the wreckage of us. He was on the floor in the bathroom, terrified, crying, apologizing, and begging me to stop when I heard sirens. Who the fuck called the cops? That sound cut through the room like cold water. I hopped back out the same window I came in through and sprinted to my car. My feet hit the concrete hard, but I barely felt it. I hopped into the driver's seat and sped down the opposite direction I heard the cops approaching from. I sped just long enough to escape them, then slowed down so I wouldn't look suspect. Thank God I parked down the street. I drove home in a haze of anger and rage, and a part of me hoped I would see that woman running so I could finish her. But I never did. I didn't even know I'd cut myself until I got back inside and sat down on the couch to see my bloodied and cut up feet, arms, and forehead. I sat up a bit and asked myself, where the hell are my shoes? I said it in disbelief of what had just happened in the last hour and a half. Then I leaned back against the sofa and laughed hysterically at the look of terror and regret on his face, and the fear in hers, and the rage in mine. Then I cried violently, so violently my heart started to palpitate. I sat up again and looked into my gold-framed mirror in the corner and cried even harder because I didn't recognize myself. Not my face, not my eyes, not the woman sitting there bleeding into her own couch like she had crawled out of a war she started but did not survive. Then I heard a knock at the door, and my heart damn near stopped. No one even knew where I lived yet. I could hear the radios and sirens outside, and I knew. I opened the door, and they rushed toward me like I was some criminal. Maya Strayland, you're under arrest for assault, vandalism, trespassing. The list went on so long I stopped listening. I looked out into the distance, and there he was, my husband, shaking his head in disbelief. But I didn't care. Now he knew the shredded and tangled mess my heart was because his entire apartment looked just like it. They walked me out to the car, and as I passed him, he grabbed my hand. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me, even though he wanted to, and dropped so many tears I couldn't keep count. I refused to look at him. This was his fault. I'm going to get you out of this, he said, but I was numb. I looked blankly into the distance, gave a slight chuckle, and was placed in the back of the police car. You're probably wondering how the hell we got here so fast. Well, I am Maya Strayland, for now. My husband, Drakkar Strayland, is the sorry man crying crocodile tears as I got put into the back of the cop car. He is also the man I beat the snot out of that same night. Let me start off by saying I did not always have a temper. But I did have a bit of repressed aggression from traumas and incidents I never fully healed from, but that's beside the point. Our love had always been complicated, but I always hoped we would get to a place of understanding, a place where all the pain finally stopped, a place where we could look back at the mess we made and laugh because we survived what most couples never do. But Drakkar had done so much to hurt me, and for a long time, I wanted him to feel how I felt. I wanted him to sit in the confusion. I wanted him to ache with unanswered questions. I wanted him to know what it felt like to love somebody who could make you feel chosen one minute and disposable the next. But then he went and healed. And suddenly he was too good to be involved in the trauma bond that had been holding our entire relationship together, the one he willfully contributed to for years. Oh, and the first healed thing he could think to do was date another chick. Men are so twisted. Anyway, before I give you all the tea about how I ended up barefoot, bleeding, arrested, and laughing in the back of a police car, let me take you back to the beginning. I met Drakkar my last year at SFSU. He majored in economics and I majored in business. So we were always running into each other at mixers, events, and even a few classes. It was one of those weird situations where somebody starts as a familiar face, then slowly becomes a presence. And I was sort of the hot girl in school. You know, the girl every guy wanted because he knew she was heavily layered and unlike any other girl in school. Every other black chick wore weaves and kind of looked the same. They were cute, don't get me wrong, but they all looked the same. I was the only girl who had locks down my back, hands covered in tattoos, piercings, and a cool vibe that was unique. I had this way of dressing like I wasn't trying too hard, even when I absolutely was. Long skirts, cropped hoodies, gold jewelry, stacked bracelets, lip gloss always perfect. I looked like somebody's creative girlfriend before I even had a boyfriend. I had seen Drakkar a couple times through my years in school, but that last year he was everywhere. And I mean everywhere. It felt like he was lightweight following me. Some could say he was stalking me, but I thought it was cute. I'd see him walking the halls, but if I went to the library, he'd show up there too. I'd see him coming out of the bathroom, and by the time I got to my dorm, he'd be standing there, waiting for a friend. I went out with my girls to see a movie, and what do you know? Drakkar ended up coming with one of the other girls just to kick it. I knew it was intentional, but I pretended not to notice. Because why would someone like him want someone like me? Don't get me wrong, I knew I was cute, but he was everything. Handsome, smart, creative, funny in that quiet way that made you feel like you had to earn his laugh. He had this calm confidence about him, like he already knew where he was going in life and was just waiting for everyone else to catch up. I almost didn't believe he'd be interested in me. I always got the stupid football players who couldn't spell my name to save their life. The ones who thought WYD was a love language and dapping me up was flirting. But Drakkar was different. He looked like a man, even when we were still young enough to be playing at adulthood. He knew how to speak in class without sounding like he was trying to impress the instructors. He had a plan and knew what he wanted out of life. That was something I wasn't used to, because men who wanted success usually didn't want me. So when he finally asked me out, I didn't trust it. I told him no just to see how he'd react. And I must admit, he took it well. Said he'd keep trying. And the next day he brought me a bouquet of roses like my rejection had not embarrassed him at all. That touched a part of me, even though I acted like it didn't. Something about senior year had everybody acting strange. Like the closer we got to graduation, the more people felt pressure to find a good job, find a good partner, and start arranging their lives into something impressive. All over campus, you saw the most unlikely paired couples making out, trying to force love where determination should have been. People were walking around like diplomas came with spouses and job offers came with wedding dates. So, I thought maybe Drakkar was under the same pressure. Because I was not the marrying kind. I did good in class, got all B's, came into most classes early, even got a couple awards for my helpfulness. But I came with the reputation most people would frown on. Let's just say, I was far from a virgin. And I had no shame in those videos going around of me getting down and dirty with most of the football team. I loved everything about sex. The smell, the touching, the sound, and of course, the feeling. I loved watching the men and women I would be intimate with unravel the closer they got to entering the realm of pleasure. Loved the sounds they made once they were inside that realm, the way they morphed into light and their pulses quickened. My hands and body moving to drive them deeper into insanity as the pleasure became damn near unbearable. Every time I met someone I liked, I pleasured them, one way or another, shamelessly. Sex was honest to me, simple, clean, even when it was messy. I understood it. I understood what people wanted from me when desire was the language. I knew how to use my body, how to give pleasure, how to take it, how to leave before anybody started asking for parts of me I did not know how to hand over. I wanted to take Drakkar to that place of pleasure too, badly. But I didn't want feelings. I didn't want love. Sex I could wash off and clean. Feelings were much harder to get rid of. And I felt them starting every time he got close and asked of me something no one else ever had. Me. Just me. Just my smile. Just holding my hand. Just sitting beside me like my body was not the only door worth opening. I wasn't sure if that would be enough. If I was enough. The night of graduation, a group of friends we both happened to be in all went out to celebrate. Drakkar was the happiest, him being a lot older than us because he started later than most of us. Everyone used the last of their financial aid payments to pay for an expensive-ass dinner in the city, dressed up like we were already living the lifestyle of successful professionals, even though most of us had not even signed our job offers yet. The girls had on heels too high for the heels. The men had on button-ups they probably still had tags tucked inside of. And all of us were laughing too loud, posing for pictures, ordering food like Sally Mae wasn't waiting in the shadows to humble us. Drakkar made sure to sit next to me in the limo his parents paid for, sat next to me during dinner, paid for my meal. And then, after everybody was loose off of champagne and fake adulthood, he asked me to stay back and talk while the others left to do their own thing. I agreed. Just for an hour. The waiter moved our drinks to the bar, and we got cozy on the plush stools, chatting it up like I had not spent the last 4 months trying to shake him off. "You're actually fun to be around," I said after the fourth drink had successfully brought down the guard that allowed me to push him away so well. "You don't say," he replied, joking and tapping my arm with a chuckle. "I do say," I joked back, placing my glass in the air for him to clink with his as a toast. I was toasted and no longer could feel my legs. "I think you're pretty cool too," he replied. "Cool? I'm damn near magical," I slurred in response. He shook his head. Captivating. And I started to think he was just as toasted as me. "Captivating and magical," I said, picking up a pretzel stick and waving it like a magic wand. Eyes low, lips puckered. "How do you do it?" he asked jokingly. "I was just born like this." Makes sense. Someone could only reach this level of magicalness and captivatingness if they started early, he said, nodding his head like he had just explained something scientific. "That's not a word," I replied, "but I'll make it one." I used the pretzel as a wand, pretending to perform a spell, and he reached for my face and kissed me. I won't lie. I liked it. Too much. His lips were soft, but not timid. Warm, but not greedy. He kissed me like he had been thinking about it for months. For 10 seconds, I let myself fall into it. 10 seconds of butterflies. 10 seconds of fireworks. 10 seconds of something I did not know how to name until later. Expectations. The kind that came with titles and love and commitment. The kind that came with being chosen in public and vulnerable in private. The kind that made a woman start imagining Sunday mornings, shared bills, matching towels, a life that could ruin her if it ever stopped loving her back. I couldn't do that. So I stopped him. Not immediately. I enjoyed the first 10 seconds. Then I pulled back. And he let me. He just sat there, looking into me, reading me, gathering my fears and shame and tilting his head as he compiled it all, trying to understand why I couldn't give in to him. He backed up and picked up his glass, taking a slow sip. "Too close, I guess," he said from the corner of his eye, disappointment and understanding bleeding from his words. "What do you want from me?" I asked, as if I didn't even understand myself. But he just chuckled and continued sipping his drink. "I don't plan on taking anything from you, Maya. Y'all always take something," I replied. "Some of us know how to give as well," he said. I looked at him, trying to find the lie, but he just sat there, still, gentle. "You're already taken from me," I said, my voice softer than I wanted it to be, "and I haven't even given you permission yet." He looked at me, confused at first. Then his face changed, like he understood the language of the wound, even if he had not caused it. "What you feel is not something being taken," he said. "It's the feeling of receiving before you had to give." And I fell back in my seat. The words moved through me slow, touching places I had spent years dressing up, laughing over, sleeping around, and pretending did not exist. For the first time that night, I did not have a smart response. I just looked at him, and Drakkar looked back like he was not afraid of the silence between us. That was the moment I should have known that he had found the door. And once a man finds the door to the part of you nobody else has touched, it becomes very hard to remember you are the one who still has to decide whether to let him in. I thought about those words the entire ride back. Receiving before I had to give. Drakkar sat beside me in the back of the limo, close enough for his knee to brush mine every time the driver hit a turn, but far enough away to let me know he was not going to make me explain why I pulled back from that kiss. That bothered me. He just sat there with his hand resting on his thigh, looking out the window at the city lights like he had all the time in the world. And maybe that was what scared me most. A man who didn't rush me felt more dangerous than one who did. Because pressure gave me something to fight. Patience gave me somewhere to fall. "You good?" he asked, not looking at me. I laughed a little. Why wouldn't I be? "Because you got quiet." "I'm always quiet." "No," he said, turning his head toward me. "You're loud even when you're not talking." I looked over at him. That was the kind of thing Drakkar did. Said something small enough to pretend it wasn't deep, but accurate enough to make me feel naked. After that night, I stopped pretending I didn't want him. But Drakkar was patient. Annoyingly patient. He did not ask me to be his girlfriend the next day. He did not try to drag a title out of me before I was ready. He just kept showing up. Coffee before class, walks after events. He would meet me outside the library with snacks, like I was a child who needed bribing to study. He would walk me to my dorm even when I told him not to. He would sit beside me in crowded rooms and somehow make it feel like we were the only two people there. And slowly, without my permission, Drakkar became familiar. His laugh became familiar. His hand on the small of my back became familiar. The smell of his cologne on my jacket became familiar. The way he said my name when he was warning me, teasing me, wanting me, or trying to calm me down became familiar. And familiarity is dangerous when your heart is lonely. We started dating officially 2 weeks after graduation. I didn't make a post, but he did. Of course he did. Drakkar posted a picture of us standing outside some little restaurant in the city, His arm wrapped around my waist, my locks falling over one shoulder, my hand resting against his chest like I already belonged there. The caption said, "Mine." That was it. Just mine. I'd be lying if I said something in me didn't melt. Because at that age, being claimed by a man like Drakkar felt like protection. It felt like being chosen loudly. The comments came quick. Some cute, some messy. Maya and Drakkar? Confused emoji. Oh, wow. Mind blown emoji. He wifed her? Vomit emoji. That's crazy. Weird face emoji. He better be careful with that one. Caution emoji. She been with half the football team. Football player emoji. People thought I didn't see the comments, hear the rumors, but I did. I saw everything. The looks, the whispers, the way some of the girls suddenly started asking how long we've been talking, like they needed a timeline to compare against whatever hope they had built in their heads. The way some of the men looked at Drakkar like he had lost his mind, like I was fun enough to touch, but not respectable enough to love. That was the first time I saw Drakkar become protective over me. A man from the football team made a joke one night when we ran into him at a rooftop party downtown. I don't even remember exactly what he said. Some slick. Something about already knowing what I liked. Something that made everyone around us laugh a little too hard. I froze. Not because I was ashamed. Because I was tired. Tired of being reduced to old choices by men who had enjoyed those choices with me. Before I could say anything, Drakkar stepped in front of me. The room changed. His voice stayed calm, but his eyes did not. "Don't do that," he said. The guy laughed. "Do what?" "Talk about her like you know her." "I do know her." "That's fine," Drakkar said, taking one slow step closer. "And if you ever say more than that, I'll let my fists know your face," he said, pounding his fist into his palm. Nobody laughed after that. And I know I should say I didn't need him to defend me. I know I should say I could have handled it myself. But standing behind Drakkar that night, watching him make a room respect me without making me explain myself, something in me exhaled. I had never realized how heavy it was to constantly defend the woman I was from the woman people remembered. After that, the stories got louder. Lies about how Drakkar fought somebody for me. Drakkar almost got fired over me. Drakkar had lost his mind behind Maya. And the more people talked, the tighter he held me. At first, I loved it. I loved the way he made people correct their tone when they said my name. I loved the way he made me feel like nobody could play with me while he was around. I loved that he did not flinch from my reputation or ask me to shrink myself into something cleaner so he could be proud to say he loved me. He loved me with his whole chest. Loud, public, defensive, possessive. And back then, I did not know the difference between being protected and being possessed. I only knew both made me feel safe when the world had been cruel. So I let him love me like that. I let him walk me to my car with his hand wrapped around mine. I let him glare at men who looked too long. I let him answer questions I could have answered myself, because sometimes it felt good to have a man stand between me and the past I was tired of carrying alone. And Drakkar? He wore the role beautifully. The protector, the man who saw past the rumors, the man who could touch the parts of me everybody else had talked about and still kiss my forehead like I was sacred. We fell in love fast after that, but deep. The kind of deep that sneaks up on you while you're doing regular things. Grocery shopping, laughing in the car, eating takeout on the floor, falling asleep doing movies, arguing about music, making plans neither of you has the money to fund yet. His economics degree and confidence carried him into interviews like he had been practicing success in the mirror his whole life. I watched him buy his first real suit. Watched him stand in the bedroom mirror fixing his tie. Watched him become a man right in front of me. You nervous? I asked him. No. You lying. Absolutely. I laughed and stepped in front of him, fixing the knot even though I barely knew what I was doing. You got this, babe, I told him. He looked down at me with those eyes that always made me feel like I had said something bigger than I meant to. You believe in me like that? I do. He bent down and kissed me gently on the forehead. And that small kiss did something to me. Because sex had taught me what it felt like to be wanted. But his forehead kisses taught me what it felt like to be cherished. A few months later, I got my first real job, too. Drakkar brought me flowers that day. Roses again. He was corny like that. I acted annoyed, but I kept every petal until they dried out and curled at the edges. Life started moving. Apartment tours, rented furniture, credit applications, bills we were too young to understand. Arguments over whose turn it was to cook. Making love on a mattress, sitting on the floor because the bed frame was coming soon, which was young people language for we can't afford it yet. We were broke, but we were hopeful. And sometimes, hope can make broke feel romantic. We spent our first Christmas together in a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like cinnamon candles and fried chicken. Our tree leaned to the side because the stand was cheap, and half the ornaments came from the dollar store. But Drakkar lifted me up so I could put the star on top like we were in a movie. When he sat me down, he kept his hands on my waist. You happy? He asked. I looked around at the crooked tree, at the tiny kitchen, at the stack of bills on the counter, at the man holding me like I was not just a part of his life, but at the center of it. Yeah, I said, I think I am. And I was. For a while. I really was. That is the part people never want to believe when a marriage falls apart. They want the whole thing to have been a mistake from the beginning. They want every sweet memory to be fake, every kiss to be manipulation, every good season to be a trick. But it wasn't. Drakkar loved me. I know he did. He loved me when we were broke. He loved me when people whispered. He loved me when I did not know how to receive love without trying to pay for it with my body. He loved me enough to marry me. And I loved him enough to believe that marriage would make us holy where love had only made us hungry. He proposed 2 years after graduation. Nothing too fancy. Nothing like the videos women cry over online with rose petals and drones and violins. It was just us. Ocean Beach, cold as hell. The wind disrespectful as usual. I had on one of his hoodies and my locks kept blowing into my lip gloss, making me mad every 30 seconds. Drakkar was acting weird the whole walk, quiet and stiff, hands sweating inside mine like he was about to confess to a crime. What is wrong with you? I asked. Nothing. You've been saying nothing all night. Maybe nothing is wrong. Maybe you're annoying. He laughed, but it came out nervous. Then he stopped walking. The ocean was loud behind us, waves rolling in like they already knew my life was about to change. He turned to face me, and for the first time since I hadn't known him, Drakkar looked scared. Not insecure, not unsure, scared. Like the answer mattered enough to wound him. Maya, he said, reaching into his coat pocket. My heart dropped before my mind understood why. Drakkar? Let me say it, he said. So I did. I let him. He got down on one knee in the sand, holding a ring that looked too beautiful for our bank accounts, and his eyes filled with tears before he even asked. You are the first woman who made me want to be more than what I survived, he said. And I know I'm not perfect. I know I got stuff I gotta learn. But I love you. I love your mind. I love your mouth, even when it's reckless. I love your heart, even when you act like you don't have one. I want to build with you, he said. I want to protect you. I want to give you a life so soft, you won't even know what survival feels like. That was the promise that entered my heart and made a home there. A life so soft I wouldn't even know what survival felt like. So I said yes. And for a while, life was good. The kind of good that makes you ignore the small cracks because the house is still standing. The kind of good that makes you believe every argument is just passion. Every apology is growth. Every red flag is just a shadow passing over something sacred. We got married the following spring. Family, friends, too much food, not enough chairs, and me in a beautiful dress that made me feel richer than I really was at the time. Drakkar cried when I walked down the aisle. Everyone in the room sighed like they were witnessing proof that love could still make men tender. And when I reached him, he took my hands like they were holy. I see my whole world in your eyes, he whispered, and I believed him. God help me. I believed him. And when we said our vows, I meant every word. For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness, in health, to love, to cherish, until death. I just didn't know there were ways for love to die while both people were still breathing. Not then. Then I only knew his hand was warm. His ring was on my finger. His last name was becoming mine. And every person who had ever whispered that I was not the kind of woman men married was going to have to eat their fucking words. For a while, that felt like healing. For a while, that felt like justice. For a while, that felt like the love I deserved. But life has a way of testing the promises people make when they're dressed up and crying in front of witnesses. In marriage has a way of revealing what love was too drunk, too young, too horny, and too hopeful to notice. At first, being Mrs. Strayland felt good. I loved the way my name looked next to his. Loved checking married on forms. Loved the way people looked at us when we walked into rooms together, like we made sense now that there was a ring involved. Drakkar wore husband well in the beginning. He carried groceries without me asking, kissed my forehead before I left for work, grabbed my waist in the kitchen and danced with me while rice boiled over the stove, called me his wife every chance he got, dragging the word out like it still surprised him. My wife said, my wife likes. Let me ask my wife. And every time he said it, something in me softened. Because for a woman with my reputation, wife sounded like redemption. Like proof. Like maybe all the things people had said about me did not have the final say. But soft things are fragile when they are built on proof. And I had not realized how much of my marriage was built on proving. Proving I was worth choosing. Proving he had not made a mistake. Proving I could be faithful, respectable, nurturing, healed. Proving I could be more than what people remembered. So even after the wedding, even after the ring, even after Drakkar stood in front of God and everybody and called me his whole world, I kept a guard up. Not in the obvious way. I cooked. I cleaned. I made love to him. I laughed at his jokes. I wore his last name. I laid my head on his chest at night. But there were still rooms inside me he did not have access to. Parts of me that flinched when love got too close. Parts of me that still believed if a man saw too much, he would either use it or leave. Drakkar noticed. Of course he did. That had always been his gift and his curse. He noticed everything. At first, he tried to knock the guard down gently. He would ask me what I was thinking when I got quiet. I would say nothing. He would ask me why I tensed up when he got too serious, and I would say, I'm fine. He would ask why I always turned everything into a joke right before the conversation got honest, and I would laugh and say, because I'm funny. And he would look at me like he wanted to believe me, but he didn't. One night, a few months after the wedding, we were lying in bed with the lights off, the room glowing blue from the TV neither of us was watching. His hand was on my thigh. Not sexual, just there. Warm, familiar. I was staring at the ceiling, pretending my mind was quiet. You ever gonna let me in all the way? He asked. That question landed heavy in the dark. I turned my head toward him. What does that mean? It means exactly what I said. I married you, Drakkar. I know. I live with you. I know. I sleep next to you every night. I know that too. So what more do you want? He sighed, slow and tired. You. I hated when he did that. Made one word feel like an accusation. You have me. I said, no. He said, looking up at the ceiling now. I have the version of you you're comfortable giving me. That made me sit up. Because it was true. And truth has a way of making a woman defensive when she is not ready to be free. What? So now I'm not enough? I didn't say that. You basically did, Maya. No. Because I'm here. I'm your wife. I chose you. I'm doing everything a wife is supposed to do. And somehow you're still acting like I'm holding out on you. Because you are. I laughed, but it was sharp. There it is. He sat up too, rubbing both hands down his face. I'm not trying to fight with you. Then stop picking at me. I'm trying to understand you. No, you're trying to force something out of me because you think marriage means you get access to every part of me whenever you want it. His jaw tightened. And there it was, that little shift, the first temperature change in the room. Drakkar had always been calm, but he had a prideful kind of calm, the kind that could turn cold if it felt rejected too many times. I'm your husband, he said. I know who you are. Do you? I stared back at him. The TV flickered across his face, blue light catching the disappointment in his eyes. You act like I'm one of them, he said. One of who? Them. I knew who he meant. The men before him. The ones who touched me without knowing me. The ones who laughed about me after wanting me. The ones who made me good enough for private but not worthy of public. The ones who taught me how to separate my body from my heart so I could survive being desired without being cherished. And I looked away. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Maya, every time I get close, you make me pay for something somebody else did. That one hurt. Because he was right. And because he was wrong. Yes, my guard had history. But marriage did not magically erase the part of me that had learned to protect itself before Drakkar ever got there. I wanted to explain that. I wanted to tell him that some women do not know how to receive love without waiting for the bill. That sometimes tenderness feels suspicious when your body has been treated like currency. That sometimes being chosen does not heal you right away. Sometimes it makes you terrified because now there is more to lose. But the words got stuck behind my pride. So I said the easiest thing. If you feel like I'm so damaged, why did you marry me? His face changed. Regret flashed across it before anger could cover it. I didn't say you were damaged. You didn't have to. He got quiet. Too quiet. That was the first time I felt him pull away from me while sitting right next to me. He did not yell. He did not insult me. He just stopped trying. He laid back down, turned toward the TV, and moved his hand off my thigh. That should not have hurt as much as it did. But it did. Because it was not the hand. It was the withdrawal. The silence. The way the warmth left without warning. I sat there for a moment, waiting for him to reach for me again. He didn't. So I lay back down too, facing the opposite direction, pretending I did not care that my husband's back was the only thing touching the space between us. That was how it started. Not with cheating, not with screaming, not with hotel rooms, dating profiles, police sirens, or broken glass. It started with two wounded people laying in the same bed, both wanting to be loved, both too proud to admit how scared they were. Drakkar wanted my softness, but he did not know how to hold my fear without feeling accused by it. And I wanted to give him softness. God, I did. But I did not know how to lay it down in front of a man who was starting to make my guarded places feel like personal offenses. So I kept my walls, and he kept his distance. One night became two. Two became weeks. Weeks became a language. We still kissed goodbye in the morning, still said, "Love you," before hanging up the phone, still posted pictures where his hand was on my waist and my ring was catching the light just right. But behind closed doors, something had started to sour. The laughter was still there, but it had edges. The sex was still good, but sometimes it felt like a question neither of us knew how to answer. The love was still real, but real love can still become unsafe when nobody knows how to tend to the wound underneath it. And me, I kept telling myself it was just a season, a rough patch, growing pains. Because that is what women do when the house is still standing. We ignore the smell of smoke. We open the window, light a candle, spray perfume over the burning, and call it home. The first time I caught Drakkar cheating, I wish I could say I was surprised. I wasn't. Not fully. There are some things a woman knows before she has proof. Her body knows. Her dreams know. Her stomach knows. Her spirit starts whispering long before the evidence gets brave enough to show itself. For weeks, he had been different. Shorter with me. Quieter. Phone always face down. Showers the second he got home. New passwords. Longer work days. And that coldness he had started wearing around the house like cologne. I asked him one night while he stood in the kitchen, drinking water, shirtless, jaw tight, acting like the silence between us was something I had created by myself. "Are you cheating on me?" He laughed, not because it was funny, because he was offended I had asked the question out loud. "Maya, don't start." "Don't start what?" "This." "What is this?" "You looking for a problem because you don't know how to be happy." That hit me harder than it should have, because maybe part of me believed it. Maybe I did look for danger because peace felt suspicious. Maybe I did keep one hand on the exit because I had learned early that people loved what they could use and abandoned what they had to understand. But that did not make me wrong. 2 days later, his phone lit up while he was in the shower. I did not go looking. That is what I told myself at first. I just looked down. One message. One name I did not know. Last night was everything. I stood there staring at those 4 words while the shower ran down the hall and steam crept under the bathroom door like even the house was trying to hide what he had done. Last night, everything. I picked up his phone with hands so steady it scared me. The password was new, but not clever. Our wedding date no longer worked. My birthday no longer worked. Then something told me to try his mother's birthday. It unlocked. And there she was. Pictures, messages, voice notes. A whole little world tucked inside the phone I had bought him the case for. I read until my heart stopped reacting. That is the thing about betrayal. At first it burns. Then it freezes. Then it becomes a place inside your body where sound cannot reach. When Drakkar came out of the bathroom, towel low on his waist, beard damp, looking like the man I still wanted even as he became the man I could not trust, I held up the phone. He stopped. For 1 second, just one, shame passed across his face. Then pride swallowed it. Really, Maya? That was what he said. Not sorry. Not, let me explain. Not, I hurt you. Really, Maya? I laughed. It came out small and ugly. You cheating on me and you mad I found out? He snatched the phone from my hand. You went through my phone? And you went through another woman. His jaw tightened. The room went quiet. Too quiet. Then he said the thing that changed something in me forever. You acting like you came into this marriage pure. I blinked. The words hit slow. Not because I didn't understand them. Because I could not believe he had reached that far down into my past and pulled it out into our present like a weapon. What did you just say? He looked away, but not soon enough. I saw it. The anger, the shame, the excuse for me. You heard me. No, say it again. Maya, say it again. Drakkar. He exhaled hard, rubbing his hand over his beard. You got a past. Everybody knows that. I loved you through it. I married you anyway. But you act like I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life paying for insecurities you had before me. My whole chest caved in. Because there it was. The truth underneath the protection. The thing I had feared all along. He had not forgotten what people said about me. He had just been saving it. You married me anyway, I repeated. His face changed like he heard it then, like the words sounded different once they were outside his mouth. But it was too late. Some sentences do not go back home. They stay in the room. They sit on the bed. They crawl into the walls. They become part of the marriage. I looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time, I did not see my protector. I saw a man who knew exactly where I was soft and still chose to press there when he felt cornered. I was honest about who I was, I said. my voice barely above a whisper. You lied about who you were becoming. He said nothing, and somehow that silence hurt worse than the messages. Because I realized then that Drakkar did not just cheat with his body. He cheated with a story. The story he had told me about being different. The story he had told himself about loving me better than the men before him. The story he had told everybody else when he stood proudly beside the woman they whispered about and acted like choosing me made him noble. But the moment he got caught, I became that girl again. Not his wife. Not the woman he cried at the altar for. Not the woman who fixed his tie, prayed over his interviews, saved rose petals and old books, and believed his promise of a soft life. Just Maya, the girl he married anyway. I slept on the couch that night. Not because he asked me to. Because I could not make myself climb into a bed where love started to feel like evidence against me. And Drakkar did not come get me. That was the part I remembered most. Not the messages, not the women, not the words. It was the fact that I laid there all night waiting for my husband to choose repair, and he let his pride tuck him into bed instead. After that, forgiveness became less of a choice and more of a performance. And I performed it well. I smiled when people asked how married life was going. I wore my ring like it still meant the same thing. I let Drakkar kiss my forehead in public and pretended my body did not tense every time his phone lit up. He apologized. Over and over. And some days I believed him. Some days he was soft again. He brought flowers home from the grocery store, cooked dinner when I was tired, pulled me into his chest at night and whispered that he was sorry until the words melted into my skin and almost felt true. Almost. But betrayal does something to a woman's memory. It makes her replay. It makes her investigate silence. It makes her study tone, timing, passwords, cologne, showers, receipts, eye contact. The way a man says he is running late, like truth might be hiding between the syllables. I hated who I became after I forgave him. Hated the way I could be sitting beside my husband and still feel like I was waiting for evidence. Hated how love started requiring proof every day. Hated how my heart could miss him while my spirit kept warning me not to relax. And more than anything, I hated that every time I tried to grieve what he did, I had to grieve what he said too. I married you anyway. That sentence followed me around the house. It sat beside me while I folded laundry, stood behind me while I washed dishes, climbed into bed with us at night, and laid its ugly body between mine and his. Because he could cheat and apologize. He could lie and apologize. He could come home late, delete messages, cry, hold me, promise me he loved me, and apologize. But how does a man apologize for showing you the truth? Months passed like that. Good days, bad nights, soft mornings, ugly arguments. Sex that made me cry afterward because my body still loved what my heart no longer trusted. Then, one night, Drakkar came home late. Not too late. Not suspicious late. Just late enough. He walked in loosening his tie, tired, irritated, smelling like outside air and some cologne I did not remember him putting on that morning. I looked up from the couch. "Where were you?" He stopped, and I saw it before he said anything. The exhaustion. The offense. The way his face folded into that familiar look men get when they are tired of being questioned by the woman they taught not to trust them. "At work, Maya. You said you'd be home by 8. I got caught up. "With who?" His jaw tightened. Here we go. Something in me went quiet. Not angry. Quiet. Dangerously quiet. "Here we go?" I repeated. He tossed his keys onto the counter. "Yes, here we go. Every time I'm 10 minutes late, every time I touch my phone, every time I breathe wrong, I gotta answer for it." I stood up slowly. "You made me this way." "No," he said, pointing at me. "You already were this way. I just gave you someone to aim it at." The room froze. So did I. He realized it immediately. I watched regret move across his face, but regret was too slow. I nodded. Not because I agreed, because something inside me finally stopped arguing. "Okay," I said. He blinked. "Maya, no, you're right." "I didn't mean you did." His mouth closed. I walked past him into our bedroom. For a second, he did not follow me. Maybe he thought I was going to slam a door. Maybe he thought I was going to cry. Maybe he thought I was going to pack a dramatic little bag and come back once I cooled off. But I did not pack clothes. I opened the drawer beside my side of the bed and pulled out the folder I had hidden under old tax papers and instruction manuals we never read. Drakkar stood in the doorway when I turned around. His eyes dropped to the folder, then back to me. "What is that?" My hands were shaking now. I opened the folder and pulled out the papers. White, clean, cruel. His face changed. "Maya." I placed them on the bed between us. The same bed where we had made love. The same bed where I had cried quietly beside him. The same bed where I had tried to become soft again and failed. "I want a divorce," I said, right as his cell phone rang. It lay on the bed next to the stack of papers that should have severed the marriage I had suffered in. The caller ID read, "Mom." Drakkar stared at it until the light went dim. "You might as well answer," I said. "It can wait," he said, panting in frustration. His eyes stayed on me, wet and furious and afraid all at once. "You're giving up on me? On us? That easy?" His phone rang again. This time, it was his auntie. I looked down at the screen, then back at him. "You gave up on us a long time ago," I replied, adjusting my bag on my shoulder. The screen went dim again. Then his mom called. Again. This time, one call after another came in. "Mom, auntie, mom, auntie," over and over. The phone kept lighting up beside the divorce papers like God was trying to interrupt me. Drakkar looked at me, torn by which matter deserved his attention more in that moment, even though I had never been much of a priority. "Give me one more chance," he begged. His phone rang off the hook now. His auntie and mom took turns calling him over, and he was getting worried. I could tell by the way his eyebrows furrowed every time he looked down at the phone. "No," I said. My voice cracked. "No more chances, baby." And I hated that I called him baby. Hated that even with my heart bleeding in my chest, some soft, stupid, sacred part of me still reached for the name I used when I loved him more than I loved myself. "Maya, please," he begged. Then my phone started to ring. His mother. For a second, I just stared at her name. I did not want to answer. I did not want to be pulled into whatever family storm was calling him away from the wreckage he had made of us. I did not want to care. I did not want to be anyone's wife, anyone's daughter-in-law, anyone's strong place to land. But the grief in the room was already too thick, and I needed something else to focus on. So I answered. Hello? Maya? His mother's voice trembled through the phone, thin and broken, like she had already been crying. Hey, baby, is Drake there? Drakkar's face changed. I handed him the phone. He reached for it slowly, and there was a look in his eyes that made me want to cry for him and laugh at the pain he had caused me all at once. Because even then, even standing there with divorce papers between us, my body knew how to recognize fear in the man I loved. He put the phone to his ear hesitantly. Ma? She said something. I could not make it out at first. Drakkar nodded, then sat on the edge of the bed like she had instructed him to do it before she could continue. The room went still. Too still. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Then I heard her say it. Not all of it, just enough. Enough for my stomach to drop. Enough for Drakkar's face to collapse. Enough for the divorce papers to suddenly look small sitting between us. His head dropped. The phone slipped from his hand onto the bed, and my husband, the same man I had just decided to leave, sobbed and screamed like someone had reached inside his chest and ripped his heart open. I stood there frozen, bag on my shoulder, divorce papers on the bed, his mother crying through the phone, and Drakkar breaking in front of me. For the first time in years, I saw him as something other than the man who hurt me. I saw him as a little boy losing someone he loved. And God help me, I almost forgot I had come here to leave.
That I've been so far away. I've had a lot on my plate. I know that I've been so hard to reach, but I don't wanna be that man. I wanna do better by you. I wanna be better for you. No more taking you for granted. I wanna do better by you. Shed the old, embrace the new. No more taking you for granted anymore. So baby, please keep that door open for me just a little bit longer. Yeah, we could try to mend what is broken. If you just keep the door open. I've journeyed far from where I stand. Now I'm longing for change. I hear the echoes from this different man, but all his words are rearranged. So baby, please keep the door open for me just a little bit longer. Yeah, we could try to mend what is broken. Yeah, wanna be better for you. No more taking you for granted.